Hello everyone and welcome to my video and blog post contribution for Azure Back to School, a great annual community initiative set up by Wim Matthyssen and Derek Smith to share knowledge and help people learn new things and improve their skill set. In this video I will tell you and look into Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, which is currently in preview. So, what I'm going to talk about, well, first of all, I will talk about what Azure Arc is and what you can do with it. And then I will look into Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, what it is, what the prerequisites are, and how you can deploy it. Let me also shortly introduce myself for the people who don't know me. So, my name is Wim Matthyssen. I live in Belgium, where I work as an Azure Technical Advisor and Azure Trainer. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and an Azure MVP, and next to that also founding board member of a Belgium user group called MC2MC, where we focus on Microsoft 365, Azure and the Power Platform. I also have my own blog, https://wimmatthyssen.com, where I blog a lot about my daily experiences with Azure and all related Microsoft hybrid cloud services like Azure Arc. And like most IT professionals these days, I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you ever want to reach out, just say hi or ask a question related to Arc maybe. You can always contact me through my Twitter handle @Wim or through LinkedIn. Or you can simply scan the QR code on the right side of the screen. So with that being said, let's get started. Well, what we see these days is that customers often have 10 or hundreds and even thousands of applications running in their environments, which are running on a diverse infrastructure. So a lot of those companies in an end come into a situation where they are running applications and workloads in their own data centers, in their branch offices, or even in hosting environments. And even some of them already run them in a multi-cloud scenario, where they are using more clouds like Azure, AWS or Google Cloud. And to add to this complexity, their IT or cloud administrators also use different development tools, languages and even frameworks, as well as mix up technologies like DevOps, Kubernetes and AI. So their environment and application landscape is evolving and growing almost each day. Most of them then not only end up with a lot of questions, but they also struggle with how they can manage, govern and control, even secure all those IT resources in a seamless way from a central place, for example. At the same time, a lot of those companies also want to unlock new business scenarios by bringing cloud innovation to their existing infrastructure. So in the same time, they want to modernize their local data centers with new cloud infrastructure, like already being said, AI or edge computing. And that's where Azure Arc comes into the picture. Azure Arc can help those customers to organize and govern all their infrastructure and data services that run on-premises, on other clouds or at the edge. And this in the same way as they govern and manage their already Azure resources. They can do it with the same tools, the same features and services, so everything they are already familiar with. In this way, Arc kind of creates a bridge between your on-premises world and Azure and extends the control plane to resources outside of Azure by projecting those resources to Azure Resource Manager, which then allows you to see and manage them from inside Azure. These days, you already have Azure Arc-enabled Server, which supports Windows Server from Windows Server 2008 R2 SP1 to Windows Server 2022. And also a wide range of Linux operating systems such as Ubuntu, SUSE and Red Hat, and even Amazon Linux are supported. Then you also have Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server, which allows you to take advantage of Azure Security Services next to governance and inventory benefits for all your SQL databases. And then finally, with Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes, which is also general available, you can also use cloud-native tools to better manage your Kubernetes cluster running anywhere. Then with Arc-enabled, you can then organize all these servers, apply governance on them, security, and even role-based access control. So in a way, you can use Azure Policy, Azure Monitor, and Azure Resource Tag. You can also use Azure Update Management, for example, to keep your servers up to date with all the latest patches. And you can also deploy all kinds of Azure VM extensions, which will in the end simplify the management of your hybrid machines. Always good to know, I think, is what this all costs. Because at the end of the month, someone still needs to pay the Azure bill. So important to know is what gets charged when you start using Azure Arc-enabled servers. Well, first of all Azure control plane functionality like tagging, RBAC, activity log can be used for free. So without any additional cost. And then any Azure management server that you can see on the screen and which is attached to any of your servers will be charged. And the pricing model of these services is completely the same as they are today for any of your Azure VMs. For example, Azure Monitor for Azure Arc-enabled VMs will be priced exactly in the same way as it would be for your Azure VMs. The only exceptions are Azure Policy Guest Configuration, which includes desired state configuration, change tracking, and inventory, which are free for your Azure VMs, but charged at around €5 per server per month for your Azure Arc-enabled VMs. You could just use one of these or all of them together. The price will remain completely the same. So around €5 per server per month. After that all being said, let us now take a closer look into Azure Arc-enabled servers in a short demo. So for the demo, let me first show my management structure. So let me go to the global search bar, type in management, select my management groups. You will see I have a renamed tenants root group. I have my top company level, and underneath I have my decommissioned, landing zones, platform and sandboxes. Underneath my landing zones these days I create also a separated child management group called the same customer short abbreviation followed by ARC. Underneath there I have a dedicated subscription I always use for Azure Arc. In this way I can specify, by using this management structure, I can specify policies, RBAC rules and so on directly used by my Arc environment. So let me click on my subscription. Let me scroll down to settings and the resource groups, and you will see I also have a specific resource group created for all types of Arc related resources I can apply. I also created a script for it. If you go to my blog post related to this video, you will find the link and it will redirect you to the script, and if you want you can use it to automatically deploy all these resource groups. So for example, I have one dedicated for vSphere, for SFAMM Arc related resources, for Kubernetes, for PostgreSQL, and so on. I also by default deploy the required resource providers are related to Arc in advance. So if I click on my resource providers, type in hybrid, you will see the hybrid compute and the hybrid connectivity one already registered. And if we look into the guest configuration, that one is also registered. So let me now go to the Arc blade. Just type in Arc at the global search bar, click on Azure Arc, and you will get to the overview blade. If you want to quickly add some new servers or other infrastructure into your Arc environment, just click on infrastructure, click on servers, and you will get to the blade where you can download the necessary scripts which allows you to onboard your server resources. But I already did this in advance. I have a NUC at place at home, and I have some VMs running on there. So if I scroll down and go to servers, you will see I have 3 Windows VMs, 1 domain controller and 2 SQLs. You can see when I onboarded them, they're automatically placed through the script in my Arc-Azure resource group. You can see they also have their own custom and Arc-related tags all applied. If we now, for example, click on one of them, let me take the domain controller, let me then go to tags, you will see it has these dedicated Arc tags like city, Antwerp, but also some custom tags also used for other Azure resources like cost center 23 and environment production, for example. I also have a tag which specifies the update schedule, so I directly know which VM or Azure resource follows which update cycle. If I close this screen, go back to my domain controller, sorry. For example, I also activate the necessary extensions on this specific Arc-related resource. So you can see I'm already using the monitoring agent in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Windows extension. And this allows me, for example, if I go to security, to see security recommendations related to this resource. You can go through them. It's all integrated in there. Next to that, I also have an Azure Automation account in place. I have updates in place, so the update schedules. But for example, I also activated inventory. And with this, if it opens, let us take a moment. We can see what is all being installed on that specific server. And I also enabled, for example, change tracking, so I can follow whenever a new software or a new file is being deployed on this specific server. I also can follow the resource health, so you can see I can do almost all the same things you're used to of working when you're working with, for example, your Azure VMs. You can all use them on your Azure Arc related resources. This is my short demo, so if you ever have a question about it, just ping me. So after that demo, it's now finally time to look into Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, which is currently at the time of the recording still in preview. Well, just like all other Arc features, it extends Azure governance and management capabilities, but now for your VMware vSphere infrastructure. In this way, you can, for example, foresee self-serve VM operations using RBAC, browse all your VMware vSphere resources, like your VMs, templates, network, and even storage. And by enabling guest management, you can perform monitoring and governance operations across your VMware and Azure VMs. When using VMware vSphere with Azure Arc, keep in mind that it's currently in preview, so don't use it in any production environment. And because it's in preview, it's only currently supported in the East US and Azure West Europe region. And at the moment it only works with VMware vSphere 6.7 and 7. To start using the Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere features, you need to connect your VMware vCenter server instance to Azure Arc. And there are some requirements and prerequisites you can take in advance. First of all, you require an Azure subscription and also a VNet. And a good idea from not only a security but also from a governance perspective is to use a dedicated resource group, like for example the one with the name shown on the slide. And if you were not already using Azure Arc, you will need to register all required resource provider, and especially the Microsoft.Connect VMware vSphere resource provider. Then you need to deploy an Azure Arc resource bridge, which is simply set a virtual appliance which you need to deploy into your vSphere environment. And for this you require a resource pool or a cluster on your vCenter server, and this with a minimum capacity of 16 GB of RAM and 4 vCPUs, and a data store with at least a minimum of 100 GB of free disk space. Of course, you also need your vSphere account, and this one needs to have the appropriate permissions. So it needs to be able to read all inventory, and also it needs to be able to deploy and update VMs. If you want to know how you can connect and onboard your VMware vCenter server to Azure Arc, you can read more about it on my according blog post. Just click on the link and just read and try it out. So that's it for this video. Thank you for your attention. I really hope you learned something from it. Next to that, be sure to check out all other videos and blog posts at the Azure Back to School website, because there will be a lot of more interesting Azure topics covered. You can also keep an eye on Twitter for the hashtag Azure Back to School. And if you ever have a question related to Azure Arc, you can always contact me through my Twitter handle at Wim Matthyssen. I would love to help you. So see you all next time. Bye.